This is an Infatuation Side Dish, a shorter version of our podcast where I get together with people to talk about Asian things that we love. This is Curtis, and on today's episode we are doing a special interview with the director and producer of the documentary Try Harder, Debbie Lum. Hey, welcome back everyone to another Side Dish Thursday edition. Yeah, another secret podcast that we're dropping when you least suspect it. Today we're talking about a movie that I really enjoyed, that's very personal as well, called Try Harder. Try Harder is a documentary film about kids from my alma mater, Lowell High School. The film follows 5 students through the process of applying to college. The film opens up in select theaters this weekend, December 3rd, so I wanted to encourage you to go see the film if you're able to. On a whim, I messaged the director and producer of the film, Debbie Lum, about the possibility of coming onto our podcast, and she actually agreed to come on. So I'm sorry if this sounds a little rushed, but she was on a very tight schedule doing interviews all day long, so I'm really grateful that she was able to come on and chat with us for a little bit. As a side note, I recorded this from my classroom at Galileo, so the quality might be a little uneven on my end, but I really enjoyed talking to Debbie, and I really hope you enjoy this episode.
Good morning, Lowell High School. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
So right now, the senior class is stressing over college apps.
If I could, I would probably just take the SAT every single week.
Sing. Please begin. In the 90s, if you went to Lowell and had a good, solid B average in honors courses, you got into Berkeley. Now you don't.
The kids who come here, they are competing in a world that is very high achieving. It's terrifying.
I would love to go to UC Berkeley,
Harvard, Stanford,
Columbia.
Well, it's hard to have a strong sense of self-esteem because you're always comparing yourself to other people.
If I don't go to one of those big colleges, I will not be able to do what I want to do.
College is just a huge goal for a lot of immigrant families.
I'm 18. This is my college experience. Should I be making a decision, right?
The question is not which school is better, which school is better for Alvin.
We pray for the seniors during this college app season, oh Lord.
The pressure is insurmountable at times.
I just got evicted from my house.
My worst fear would have a student apply to 10 prestigious schools and not get into any of them.
This is going to end so badly.
They're objectively under more pressure.
It's the best.
You want to go to the college, I want to go to the college. I have to be better than you.
What the hell? This is not how high school is supposed to end.
Coming along with us today is award-winning independent filmmaker Debbie Lum. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Hello, Curtis.
Thanks so much for giving us some of your time. I know you're busy.
Yeah, it's a little bit crazy with the opening tomorrow.
Yeah, it's exciting but crazy, I'd imagine.
It's really exciting, yeah.
So we are talking about your second feature-length documentary called Try Harder. And Try Harder follows the lives of several high schools, juniors and seniors at San Francisco's top-ranked Lowell High School. And people who listen to my podcast know that I went to Lowell back in the 80s, but this film hit hard for me. I mean, maybe harder than some, because just seeing the hallways and seeing some of the teachers even is pretty fun. Try Harder has won many accolades, especially being selected and shown at the last winter's Sundance Film Festival and being nominated for the Grand Jury Prize. So congratulations for that. And as we just talked about a second ago, it is opening a little wider release. It's been playing around in film festivals this whole year, I believe, but it's opening up in 7 cities this weekend, right here in San Francisco. If you're lucky enough to live here, or Berkeley, you can go see it in your theaters. Also New York, Los Angeles, Pasadena, Tulsa, and San Rafael. So it's about a week in all these locations, is that right?
Yeah, it's amazing. We're playing in all these different cities, and it's kind of a traditional art house release where the box office matters. So if it does well in opening weekend, they might open it in other regional markets, which is kind of, we've played in so many festivals across the US, and they're anywhere where there's lots of people who are obsessed with high school, achievement, and often we're Asian American, right? is everywhere. It's not just those major cities.
Great. Yeah. So I think that people can go to tryharderfilm.com and they can buy tickets there and see when and where it's playing. Go support your independent filmmakers as well as your local theaters. We hope to see you all out there at the theater. I know you're making a question and answer session in San Francisco tomorrow.
Yeah, if people are local in San Francisco, actually in every single city, we have special events and live Q&As. So tomorrow night, Thursday, 7:10 p.m. at the Regal Stonestown, we're doing a panel with myself and amazing subjects in our film, as well as special guests, including Lowell alumna and California State Controller Betty Yee.
All right.
And also, it's being moderated by Celine Pereña Shimizu, who's the Dean of the Arts at UC Santa Cruz. So it's going to be a really great conversation.
I love the film, just to open up with that, and it was just such a for those of us who went to Lowell or anyone who's been through the college application experience, it really ties you, like from the first 5 minutes, your stomach is tied into knots as you watch this. Did you relate to that at all in your experience growing up in high school?
Well, I grew up a long time ago, and I think high school was really different, where the popular kids were the football players, and people were more stressed out about what clothes they were wearing than what grades they were getting. So not exactly, but I did go to a college prep high school in a completely different place in St. Louis, Missouri, where there are, at the time when I was growing up, it was like less than 1% of the population were Asian American. It felt different on many levels from Lowell High School.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yet, looking at your bio, most of the subject matter that you deal with is Asian American, so it is a big part of your life, obviously. What goes into the decision to select these topics that you've chosen?
Oh, I've always wanted to tell original, compelling stories, and because hardly any have been told about the Asian American experiences.
Right.
There's so much material to work from. But yeah, I think it's definitely part of the way I see the world. It's shaped, the lens that I look at the world at, being Asian American.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I did a little snooping on your IMDb, and I saw that you worked on AKA Don Bonus. I'm actually coming to you from Galileo High School right now. We were in my classroom, and that I started the year that movie came out. Was my first year teaching here, and it was kind of a prerequisite viewing to watch that movie. It's a very different documentary than yours, but it takes place in the same city, and I think it highlights a little bit about how we are definitely not a monolith, right? The Asian American experience, even in a small city like San Francisco, I consider a small city, 7 by 7, right? We're a pretty small town, but yet the experience that an Asian student might have, 3 miles away from or 1 mile away from each other is vastly different. Do you have any memories of working on that film?
Oh, it's an amazing film directed by incredible visionary filmmaker named Spencer Nakasako. And that film taught me everything about making films because it was a pretty groundbreaking idea. Spencer it was like the beginning of this fancy, state-of-the-art technology called i8 camcorder.
Oh, yeah. On a tape.
on tape recorded cassettes that the big thing about it was it was small because people used to carry these giant cameras that were like 30 pounds
on your shoulder.
On your shoulder. Spencer gave a camera to a 17, 18-year-old kid named Don Bonus, or Soklini is his Cambodian name. And he filmed his own story. So he filmed his experience at Galileo High School and around town. And it was groundbreaking because it was a world that you've literally never seen before on film. And to see it from his perspective, that subjectivity was just mind-blowing, I would say.
Yeah. No, it's really touching. And it made you realize that the high school experience, everyone has such a different high school experience, but I think his life showed most of us an experience that we had never seen before. So you're back in high school again with this movie. This is Try Harder, and it's across town. And yet, what's interesting about San Francisco, as you know, kids might live next to one high school and yet go all the way across town. So, where our kids might come from, the Bayshore, Tenderloin, they might end up going to Gowan. They might end up going to Lowell. It's the subjects in your film could just as easily live next to this high school as well. So there are definitely some similarities that these kids had growing up. So Try Harder is such a great name. Is there a story behind where that came? Would that come from your experience at all, or just kind of popped in your head as you're doing it?
It was just what we saw the kids doing all the time. One of our Lowell friends jokes that it should really be called try harder,
Mm-hmm.
even harder. It's so challenging for kids today. But I do think it's also what every immigrant kid hears their parents say to them.
Yeah. If you're not good at something, do better, right? Just do better.
Yeah.
And that's also, and your film points to this too, is one of the ironies, right? That sometimes it's not good enough. No matter how hard you try, it's not good enough. And it's one of the heartbreaking things about this film a little bit. How did you find Lowell? You're local, right? You live around here, or?
I like to think of myself as a San Franciscan, but I am actually a transplant.
But did you know of Lowell before you started this film?
Yes, everyone, once you move here, Lowell, it's famous, it's infamous,
But your cinematographer went to Lowell, is that true?
No, my cinematographer went to Washington, actually.
Oh!
Rival of Lowell, I believe, right? According to certain, San Francisco lore. But he went through the San Francisco Unified School District. But what was interesting was that when he was at Washington, his high school principal, Andrew Ishibashi, was, who was the principal of Lowell, was his old high school principal.
Yeah, they move around a little bit. So they gave you unbelievable access to the school. Was that hard to get, or did you just present the idea to them and they liked the idea over at the school?
Well, I think you'd have to credit the principal, Ishibashi, who's retired, with really believing in what we wanted to do. And but we also had an incredible ambassador in Mr. Richard Shapiro, and I mean everyone was very kind to us. I feel like there was a way in which students sort of needed their story to be told, and that's how we came to tell it in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. Now, you were there in at least a whole year, but more than a year? How long were you in the school?
It was over the course of 2 school years, and then we kept tracking the kids through the beginning of college just to make sure that we had the story, So it was a long time.
Now, are they all graduated now? They're about that age, right?
Yeah, this was pre-pandemic, and so and it takes a really long time to make an independent documentary.
It does.
And they waited really patiently for us to finish. And yes, most of them have graduated. Not all of them, but most of them have graduated from college now.
Wow. So let's talk about these kids. These are the stars of the show, right? These from the minute you meet them, you're rooting for them the whole time. Like I know I was. And so how did you find the talent for this movie? How did you find these kids?
Well, we interviewed lots of kids the year before when we were trying to explore a film called My Tiger Mom. And we asked kids about their parents and the pressures that they put upon them. But in that process, one of, if not the very first person we met was Alvin from our film. Alvin, dab master, and science nerd extraordinaire. But we met a lot of the kids through just talking to teachers and sitting in different classrooms. And, we knew that we wanted to keep the story in the classroom, actually, just because we felt like there was so much at stake all the time. Kids trying to get into college. And, I knew that high school kids who are at high achieving schools, they have like 3 times the amount of anxiety as the average teen. And they're at risk of all these mental health issues. And when we talked to the wellness center, they would tell us that people would think, oh, your kids at Lowell High School, they don't need, what help do they need? Because these are like the smart kids. The truth of the matter is, like, everyone is under so much pressure today that the kids that are, you know, supposedly the future leaders of our world are facing, they're at risk for serious mental health issues. And so that's kind of why that was one of the factors in wanting to tell this story. And yet they're still kids, you know, they're kids with like so much life and energy and so much personality.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, they're all great, but Alvin just jumps off the screen at you. His personality is so big and so real. You could see the whole roller coaster that he went through in this year. You know, so you have Ian and you have Sophia, Alvin, Rachel, Shay, and then of course Mr. Shapiro as the AP physics teacher. Sophia's amazing. I really like Sophia. She comes across as so poised, so confident, but you could see the vulnerability. You know, she's a kid. She's still a kid, right? And it's just so tough to watch her journey. And it turns out great. Turns out fine. But when you make documentaries, one of the occupational hazards I'd imagine is, as you're right there, right? You're in their life. Were you tempted to? I mean, how much do you intervene as a counselor, as a friend, as someone that, you know, or do you try to keep that fourth wall as best you can?
Oh yeah, you have to really, it's not reality TV. It's really observational, and the authenticity really has to come from the people whose story you're trying to capture, you know? So no, I mean, I think the most would have been I think you can hear it in the film when I asked Alvin, why didn't you include that in your application? Which would have helped you get in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't, I mean, they're really brave, the students that let us be there at a super vulnerable point in their lives. Yeah.
And that was such, we are the Infatuasian podcast, but that was such an Asian moment too, where he's like, I don't want to talk about, we don't want to spoil the film, but there's a moment where there's something that would be really helpful for his application, as you alluded to, but he didn't want to do it. You know, he didn't want to expose his dad because he didn't want his dad to lose face,
Alvin is so emblematic of the immigrant experience and the immigrant sort of idealistic belief in the system. And in fact, in one of the outtakes, Alvin told us he told us he's a tryhard. And that was his term. And then he also said that if he tried really hard on his applications, it would come through. And like the people who were reading those applications would be able to tell, like in his sort of, this like real belief in the system. And then I kind of always joke that like, that's such a sign of being an immigrant when it's not until you become a real American when you realize that you have to game the system to make it work.
Yeah.
That's the American way to really
find the loopholes.
Find the loopholes and game the system.
Oh man. So I had a lot of, as a San Franciscan, I love these moments, the RNG Lounge, the Pollyanna ice cream shop. We grew up in the Outer Sunset. You guys know, everyone out there knows what I'm talking about. But and the other part of the film I really liked was the B-roll where you'll show the bulletin boards where there's like 12 years of flyers on the wall, and some of them are dog-eared and faded, and some of them are new. And you hit a good portion of the school. Well, you were there for 2 years, but you hit the ROTC, you hit the Christian Club, you hit so many, the rallies, the dances. You hit such a good segment of the school. It was really a neat look at the whole picture of the high school experience.
It's such a cool compliment from like a real Lowell person that only a Lowellite would see that, and it's
it just brought back so many memories. Do you have a favorite scene or a favorite moment, or it's kind of hard to pick one like a child? You can't pick your favorite child, right? But...
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many. Maybe the sex ed scene. I don't know. There's just so many. The dragon boat was really amazing. Shout out to one of our cinematographers, Kathy Huang, who rode in that dragon, because the Lowell Dragon Boat team, like California high schools, they do dragon boat. Where I grew up East Coast leaning, where it was like crew, little boats, and that whole you could make a film about this. Just watching the kids, it's these massive boats and the drumming and all the practice. And our Kathy, she went out there on her own without anyone else holding the camera on the boat while they were, without falling into the water.
Yeah, no, that was a great scene.
Cool.
The other scene that I just adored, but was so cringy, was when Alvin is at lunch with his parents, and he's just distraught because his mom tried to offer the admissions counselor movie tickets and then a red envelope because it's New Year's Day, right? Is that Chinese New Year's Day? And he was just so distraught, like, why would you do such a thing? But I get, I'm an Asian parent. I get it, right? It's not just necessarily a bribe. It's just trying to show you that we care and that we, that you're part of the family, that we're offering you good tidings for the year.
I mean, the amazing thing about Alvin's mom is that she is who she is and she's unapologetic about it. And, that's just her, that is, she's a very, she knows who she is, and that whole red envelope thing, you can look at it in a different way, which is why did they arrange to have an interview on the one major holiday for a family? It's really pretty insensitive.
Yeah. So you allude to this in the film, but it's not necessarily the purpose of the film, but that the game is a little rigged, right? That admissions policies, are written or unwritten, don't necessarily favor the Asian student. And you've in the film, you talk about how sometimes they describe Lowell students as machines or, quote unquote, the perfect students, but nothing else, right? They just do the school thing, right? Where do you think? I don't know. It's not a political film, but where do you think we should go with this? Is there any message that we can take away, that any change we can help be an ally for?
Well, I was really interested in the impact of the college admissions process on the psyche of young people, in the sense that, especially if you're Asian American, there's this sense that you're not good enough, that you have to either be perfect or nothing, or otherwise there's nothing, nothing less than perfect. And I don't know. I think that we get into this kind of, for some reason, the American way is to turn it into a battle royal of, people getting, very divisive, language around that. And I don't actually think that's very productive. Yeah, it's, there are many colleges out there that, as if you're teacher at Galileo High School, that a student could go to where they could get an excellent education and have an amazing experience in college.
Yeah.
And where you go is not who you will be. That's a title of a book.
And I am not worried about any of these kids that you had on your film. They're all great and they're all going places, and we'll probably all work for them someday. So they'll be fine if they don't get into Columbia or Brown. But I know that's the dream, though. And maybe the irony is that, you can try harder, but you may not get exactly what you want, but it doesn't necessarily mean fail. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Filmmaker Debbie Lum, thank you so much for coming along with us for a quick little interview. I really wish you the best on this film. I hope it gets picked up and goes far places. Oh,
thank you so much. Yeah, I hope everyone comes out and supports us this weekend at Stonestown and come and see it together, because it's really kind of amazing to be together and to watch a film together, which is so hard to do during these times.
I let out audible gasps, during this film. So I know there's going to be some times when people are going to, it's such a different experience when you're sitting next to people, and, there may be some tears shed. There may be, there's there's a couple little twists and turns in this film where some things happen that you may not expect. And, it's going to punch you in the gut a little bit. So everyone go to tryharderfilm.com, find out where this is playing. If you're in one of those cities, please go see it in the theater. If they miss this theater, this week-long run, are there other ways that they're going to be able to see this film?
Eventually, yes. We're still going out there. You can contact us on our website, but eventually it will air on public television next year.
Amazing. That'll be great.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. I know you're hugely busy this week.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, pleasure meeting you. And keep in touch. If there's anything else we can do for you, please let us know.
Okay. All right.
All right. Pleasure talking to you.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.